Right now, today, we live in the golden age of comic book superhero movies. But believe it or not, there are some that I think are extremely underrated. Hello everybody, I'm Robert Storms. Welcome back to the channel once again. If you guys are finding me for the very first time, be sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button. That way you guys can stay up to date on all future content I release here on my channel. Today I'm going to be taking an email question from my subscribers. If you guys want to send an email, a question, topic you want me to talk about here on the channel, you guys can simply email me at robertstormsmail@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and jump into today's question. Today's question comes from the Wolfman, and he writes, "Hi Rob, is there any comic book movies you think are underrated? If so, which ones and why?" Well, I actually have a list of comic book movies that I feel are underrated. I decided to keep the list at just 5. There's actually more than 5. I could actually do an easily top 10, but I wanted to keep it down to 5. And I picked 5 that I love. These are actually in my top 10 favorite comic book movies of all time, and I feel like they're really underrated. The first movie on that list is Daredevil, and I know a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes at that, and that's fine. To each their own. I think the movie's underrated. I think the director's cut is even better, and I really enjoy this movie, and I think Ben Affleck did a great job as Matt Murdock, and I enjoyed this movie so much when it first came out, and I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I love the Netflix series for sure, but I love this movie. I love the actors involved, and besides the bad CGI, this movie is actually really good. Michael Clark Duncan was amazing in this movie, and I think a lot of people give this movie a bad rap, and I think a lot of people give this movie a bad rap without even watching the movie. It's like the cool thing to do. Oh, Ben Affleck as Daredevil, that movie was horrible. But how many people actually sat down and watched this movie? And if you watch this movie, you realize it really connects to the comic book so much. I love the DVD and the special features because they have some of the best documentaries on this Blu-ray and DVD. And I just love this movie so much. I think it's extremely underrated. In the number 4 spot is Batman Begins. Now, I know what you guys are saying. Batman Begins isn't underrated. Well, sort of, because it's really dethroned by Dark Knight. Everybody talks about The Dark Knight. Out of that whole trilogy, The Dark Knight is the one movie that everybody keeps talking about. But believe it or not, this might be an unpopular thing to say, I think Batman Begins is the best movie in that trilogy. I love how Christopher Nolan was able to take that movie, adapt from Frank Miller's Year One, and give Batman a sense of realism. I loved Ra's al Ghul. I love the origin of Bruce Wayne as Batman, and this is by far my favorite Batman movie to date. Dark Knight's fantastic. I like Dark Knight Rises, but Batman Begins, for me, I think is extremely underrated and overshadowed by The Dark Knight, and that's why I have it on my list for one of the most underrated comic book movies. The third movie on this list is the movie that a lot of you guys probably never even heard of, and it's called The Scribbler. It stars Katie Cassidy, who plays Laurel Lance in the CW Arrow show, and this movie is actually really good. It's based on a comic book that's really hard to find, but it's a really good and unique story that I've never seen before. It wasn't out in theaters, at least it wasn't worldwide, and I went and I saw this DVD at my local video store, and I picked it up. It cost like 20 bucks. I went home and I watched it, and I loved the visual effects of this movie. This is a movie that I suggest to everybody. If you are a comic book fan, definitely pick up The Scribbler because it's a fantastic movie. It's a rated R movie. It's a very adult movie. And I like some of the visuals of this movie. And Katie Cassidy, I like her so much. I like her in Arrow. I like her in all she does in the CW universe. And it was good to see her have her own superhero comic book movie. So if you haven't seen The Scribbler, pick it up, give it a watch, rent it on digital, and just watch it because I think it's a fantastic movie. Coming in number 2 is V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta is arguably one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. But a lot of people don't even know it's a comic book. A lot of people have no idea that it was written by Alan Moore and it was a DC Vertigo comic book. This movie stars Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman, and I have to tell you, both give excellent performances. Natalie Portman, I feel, should have got an Oscar nomination for her performance, and I just loved this movie. I loved everything it stood for, and especially when you watch this movie today. You look at our government, you look how the world is turning today, you watch this movie, it's really relevant. Some of the best performances I have ever seen, and any comic book film was put in this movie, and I just loved everything from the cinematography, the visuals, the acting, the story, the music. This movie was a fantastic movie. Not just a comic book movie, but a fantastic movie. And I definitely think more people should check out V for Vendetta. And finally, my #1 most underrated comic book film of all time is also my #1 favorite comic book film of all time, and that is The Watchmen. Zack Snyder's Watchmen. This movie blew me away when I seen this in theaters. I went and saw this thing like 5 or 6 times in theaters. I love this movie. Not only is it visually breathtaking, this movie had a lot of story to devour. There was so much going on in this movie. I loved how it just took the graphic novel, took the comic book that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons did, and was able to transfer it pretty much on screen. The movie was written by David Hayter. If that name sounds familiar to you guys, he played the voice of Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games, and he also wrote X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 United. And he really took that script and was able to transfer the comic to screen in an excellent way. I loved everything with Dr. Manhattan, and I loved the story of Ozymandias. In order to save the world, he has to kill tons of people. Who, like, are you willing to sacrifice something in order to save the greater good? I love the deep meanings behind this movie. It's very deep. It's very emotional. The visual style of Zack Snyder was fantastic in this movie, and I thought everybody was really well cast, except for Silk Spectre. I didn't like the actress who played Silk Spectre, but everybody else was really well cast. Rorschach really stood out, but I like the deeper meanings behind the story because it shows that there's not just white and black. It's not just one side of everything. There's deep shades of gray. And sometimes in order to do the best thing for mankind, you have to do some bad things. And that really resonated with me as a viewer. And it was a movie that I constantly went back and rewatched over and over again. And I don't want to leave this video without saying Jeffrey D. Morgan as the comedian was just fantastic. That was the first time I was introduced to him, way before he was Negan on The Walking Dead. But this movie was fantastic. It still remains right now, to me, my #1 favorite comic book film of all time. And I think it's really underrated. Like, a lot of people don't want to give it a chance because either they don't like Zack Snyder or the movie's too long. They might find it boring. But I think it's a real good character piece, and the story has a lot of deep meaning, and I just love this movie. So I want to take this time to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this video. That is my top 5 most underrated comic book films of all time. Once again, guys, if you ever want to email me in a topic, you can email me at robertstormsmail@gmail.com. Also, guys, if you're finding my channel for the very first time, be sure to click that subscribe button. And until next time, as always, I'm Robert Storms, and that's my opinion.